The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good evening, listeners. This is Divya, and I want to share with you, our guest will not be able to join us today, and things happen. So it's all good. I get to talk to you all on my own, and I get to have you completely for the next 45 minutes. Yeah. So today we are going to be talking about a lot of different things. So one of the things I want to touch upon is what's going on right now. You know, especially in our country, a lot of different things are happening. Pandemic is happening globally, and then there are social issues going on, and at the same time, elections are coming up. And what's that's doing for us? So sometimes what happens is that not only all these factors that are outside of our control, not only they have impact on us, but they can create a stress level. So let's take a look at how can we handle all of this, and how can we keep the stress levels to a minimum. So let's kind of think about what goes on with our brains. Right? So what happens is something happens outside. Let's say you are walking down the street, it's a little dark, and yes, so much tension out there, folks. You are absolutely right. It's a little dark, and I'll just kind of share what happened to me a couple of days back. I like to walk outside, and I was walking down, it was dusk, and I was just looking at trees. I was looking around, watching the sunset as the rays of the sun were streaking the sky and all those different colors. And all of a sudden, I heard a rustle. And I was not in the woods, but the road that I was walking at, on one side, there's completely, pretty dense woods over there. And especially during summertime, what happens? It's all getting dark, right? And even a little sound in the woods can seem very loud. So I heard the rustle, and I looked around, and immediately what happened was I was on alert. And now you may ask, okay, what makes us go on alert? Our brains are designed to use the emotion system. And what happens is that as soon as there's a trigger, the chemicals get released in our brain. And these chemicals are released in microseconds. And as soon as these chemicals are released, they cause feelings. And from feelings come our actions and responses and different things that happen. So one of the things to remember now, what happened is I was on alert, and I wasn't sure if there was some animal there or what it was. So I turned around, and I moved towards the ledge area, and I came back. So similarly, what happens is, let's say all these issues are happening. You're watching TV, and news can be stressful. You're having a conversation, you're on social media, and yeah, there can be arguments, there can be disagreements, there can be a lot of conversation, pulling each other down. And what that does for us, it creates a lot of stress. It creates hormones. It creates physiological chemicals. And there's a feedback loop, because you'll find that once there is a stress, then you will be finding that, either your shoulders tense up, or like you may find your face crinkling up, or you may find, like tense hands, and like the whole body is tense and you don't even realize it, and it has got so much impact. So what we are going to do today is we are going to take a look at what can we do to handle stress, because stress is around. And with our guest today, we were going to talk about that thriving is a choice. So we're still going to continue on the same topic and take a look at why is thriving a choice. So the situation that I described to you was survival. And a lot of us are surviving during these tough times. And that's it. Think about it. The months that we are going through, the time that's going to be there, the time that's gone is gone. So why not make a decision to thrive? Why not make a decision to put a pause? So as soon as that trigger happens, and as soon as you feel those tensions and stress going in your body, that one of the key things to do is bring self-awareness at that time. And when I talk about self-awareness, is being mindful, just kind of feeling, where you're feeling the stress, where you're experiencing tension, and just breathing into it. And it's not about letting it go. Okay, I am not going to, pay attention to it. I'm just going to ignore it. You're going to face it. And does that mean there'll be no discomfort? There'll be plenty of discomfort, folks. Plenty of discomfort. And then what happens is, when you lean into discomfort and when you just observe it, and of course there's no tangible person here that you're observing, it's just when you're observing your feeling and you're with it, you'll find that it has a beautiful way of just fizzling out. Just like soda can, right? When you pop up that soda can, what happens is that carbonated drink, whatever that liquid is, it just gushes through and it feels good. But then the fizz is gone. So similarly, if you just pop it open and take a look at it and let the carbon dioxide or let the emotions get out of your system as you're observing it, you'll find that it will come down, and yeah, it may be flat, but peace is always better than living in a heightened state of emotions. Because what does heightened state of emotions do? It's great. Don't get me wrong. Having top-notch energy and having that enthusiasm and passion, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And yet you don't want to be in that stressful state all of the time. So when I'm talking about, I'm not talking about when you're energized about something that you're excited about. I'm talking about when you are down, when you are experiencing stress day in and day out. So whenever you experience that, take a moment. Remember, pause. And when we are talking about pause, it's just taking even 15 seconds, 20 seconds before you take action, before you say anything, before you respond back or react to something on social media or somebody telling you. And it can save so much heartache. Because folks, I'll tell you, yeah, we can ask for forgiveness, and yet words can leave a mark that can stay on somebody's heart forever. And yes, they may forgive you, but usually people do not forget the hurt. Yeah, definitely what you're saying is so true, that it's not easy to remember to take that time, and we are so fast to jump into that reaction. So all right, let's talk about it. Like, there are few neurohacks, because remember folks, we can rewire our brain. We can retrain our brain. So either you can have a bracelet, or you can have a ring, or you can create an anchor. So when I talk about anchors, that minute you start feeling stress, you can have like a fist, something that connects you with that stress. And then it could just be, taking the time and you're rubbing your hands. So what you're doing is, in that moment, when you're totally so much into that anger or upset or anxiety or fear, the key is to distract the brain. I'm not saying to take your fear and throw it under the rug. What I'm saying is that just taking that pause. And it's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a week. Whenever you remember, make an effort. And one of the things I always share is that write it out. Pause. Smile. And one of the best ways, actually, so good questions, folks. You have asked two questions. How long does it take to train our brains? And I'll get back to the second question. How long does it take? So initially, several years back, they used to say, change your habit in 21 days. Then it came to 30 days. And there are several studies that have been done out there that show that anytime you're making a change for it to become habit, and when we talk about habit, it's about like driving a car or riding a bicycle. You never forget. Yeah, you may be a little wonky if you have not ridden on your bicycle for quite some time, and yet it will come back to you. So for having the intention to taking that action to making that habit, it goes anywhere between 66 days over a year. So give yourself a break. The key is to have reminders, and it can just be a goal. So I was going to share with you about smile. So when we talk about smile, is what it happens is, I'm going to ask you, would you like to have $20,000 right now? And I am positive. So let's see, how many of you would like to have $20,000? When somebody asked me for that, I said, yeah, I'd like to have 20K if you're going to give it to me. And you can become a millionaire in a day. And I'm going to share with you how. So folks, when babies are babies, or when we are young, there are studies out there that show that, children and babies smile 400 times a day. Whereas adults only smile between 20 to 30 times a day. What a decline in our smiling. So now, let's say if somebody were to give you a raise. Let's say you're working in a corporate world, you are expecting promotion, and there your boss says, yeah, I'm going to give you a 20,000 raise. You did a fantastic job. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you find out there's a client who wants to work with you and signs up for a $30,000 contract. Oh my God, you're feeling on top of the world. You're feeling so good. Yeah, I crushed it today. I did so good today. Time to party. And then you're experiencing that joy and pleasure and that excitement. So studies have been done with the excitement and happiness that you experience during that time, when you have had a raise between 20 to 30K. Now, if you smile, you experience the same benefits. Simple, right? And sometimes you may say, I don't feel like smiling. If you don't feel like smiling, you can take a pencil, just put it between your teeth and just smile. Use your cheek muscles to smile. And guess what? It's still going to give you the benefits. And now I promised you that I'll show you how to be a millionaire. Why do people want to make millions? Because it's the feeling associated with millions. So yes, I wish you all the best, and yeah, go for it, make millions. And yet at the same time, don't wait to feel what having millions does. If you were to smile more often, think about it. If every time you are smiling, you're experiencing the benefit of 20K. Add it, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Your health is better and you feel better. So smile, folks. Such a simple solution. Include it in your daytime. Include some laughter and humor in it. And then the second question had been, what can be retrained in our brains? Quite a bit, folks. So for example, we have a memory center, hippocampus. It's very hard to break the old habits. Now that said, what you can do is you can replace the old habits by creating new habits. So for example, let's say if you have a short fuse, or if you react to something really, really fast. So now you make an intention and you put few postcards everywhere where you're just to say either pause or smile or dance, whatever works for you, sing. And now let's say that thing happens, right? You are all upset and you're ready to react. Now you hit the pause button. What it's doing is it's wiring new connections in your brain, folks. Neurons, as the new connections are happening, if you keep on repeating it, what's going to happen is it's going to become stronger and stronger neuron connection. And the stronger and stronger connection it is, guess what? It's going to become automated. And that's the key. Some of the things you want to make automated. So I want to share with you. I've got a Facebook group. So because I work with authors, it's called Authors Marketing Circle. And usually we are interacting in the group. I'm blessed to have some wonderful, wonderful people there. And we had put out a post and somebody said, something to an effect where they wanted to see if we would react to it, or maybe not. Maybe our understanding was not correct. So a couple of authors reached out to me and said, Divya, how come you responded so mildly to it? You should have responded more strongly. I'm like, listen, we have created this group for authors, Authors Marketing Circle, so that it's a haven. It's a safe place for you to be who you want to be. And it's okay. We are not going to all agree on the same things. It's about agreeing to disagree. And I'm glad, I was actually very thrilled that the person was able to express their opinion so freely. And that spoke a lot to me. To me, that spoke volumes because they felt comfortable that they could share their opinion. And when I talked with a couple of my authors, and as I was sharing with them, they're like, we didn't think like that. And I said, it's possible that the way I think may not jive with his thinking, or he may be thinking, no, I don't believe in that line of thinking. Or similarly, let's say I had another author, she may be thinking in another way and I may be thinking another way. So does that make us wrong? No. It makes nobody wrong, folks. Everybody has their own truth. And one of the key things is that as long as that truth is not hurting anyone, as long as you are not taking that truth that is true to you, and truth is also very objective. Especially look at science, right? There may be some findings today that are true today, but a few months down the road, they may not be true. And now you may say, oh gosh, then how can we trust science? A lot of people have this phobia around science now. Oh, science is useless, science is this, science is that. I want you to invite yourself into that box. And I'm going to say that we all are sitting in a box. Break the walls. Break those walls of the boxes that we build around ourselves. And think about it, okay? Let me be open and let me check facts. So we are talking about science here. And when we are talking about science, how can we rely on it? So here's the thing. Science Anybody who has done science experiment knows we first predict a hypothesis, then you experiment it, and then you report the findings. So that findings does not mean that anything is wrong or right. That's the finding in that given time. So think about it, folks. If all of us had just said like, oh, science is bad, and all these antibiotics that are there, not saying there are not side effects, so many lives have been saved. And it's about keeping our hearts and minds open. So think about the first flight. If they had said, oh yeah, I predict that this plane's going to fly, didn't fly, I'm just going to give up. No. So one of the things that I've learned from science is that not to give up, and also being open to feedback, also being open to constructive criticism that, okay, this experiment has been done. Let's confirm it. And I'm not saying that science is right all the time. Even in those findings, mistakes happen. Because ultimately, think about it, it's people who are doing it. But the key is being open, going and researching the facts, not just taking one fact, but looking at facts from multiple sources and seeing how credible the sources are, and cross-referencing, and then making your own decision. So one of the things I always love to share with my clients is that don't take what I tell you as the law of land. This is my experience, and there are 3 stages that I want to share with you. And I see there's a question here, so let's take a look at it. Many times people cannot see past the differences they have, so the friendships are ending needlessly. Oh, well said. You hit the nail on the head. And that's why we are having this conversation. We are having this difficult conversation today. And I'm going to bring in some more guests and have difficult conversations because it's important. So let's talk about what I was referring to earlier. There are 3 stages, the way I define. So you read something, you're listening, that's information. Now, unless you cross-check it, unless you experience it, unless you think upon it, unless you put your perspective on it, it's still a piece of information. There's not much difference that's happening. But now you have taken that information, you have, I'm dropping my glasses all over, folks. So now we have this piece of information. You do fact checking, you read up on it, you understand it. Now it has moved from information to becoming knowledge. And knowledge is powerful. However, that said, knowledge without application is of no use. So for example, let's say I have a lot of strengths that I play to. For example, I can definitely see the potential in a person. So one of my clients was recently telling, actually, he finished his book after almost a year and a half, and he calls me his Michelangelo. And I was so humbled and thankful to have my abilities defined in 2 words. So for example, now I see that in people. I'm able to see the potential, and I'm able to see the possibilities, and that can become the probabilities that a person is not able to see. And I say, oh, you know what? The person's not ready. I'm going to give up on them. What is that knowledge doing for me or for that person? It's of no use. Think about it. So knowledge without application doesn't take us much further. Yes, it helps us. It helps us manage our emotions. It helps us work with other people. Knowledge is good. But I hope for you to be the best version you can be of yourself. I want you to play full out. That's my hope and desire for each and every one of you. So now, okay, now you have information. We changed it into knowledge. And after knowledge, what we have done is we have applied it. And as you apply it, as you experience it, you're changing your perspectives. And you are probably, what you're doing is you're modifying that knowledge. Okay, so going back to, I'm going to share that gentleman's story. A year and a half, so he wrote his book for like 6 months. And then I knew that he had it within him. And he was not satisfied with his work. I was not satisfied with his work. And that did not mean, so one of the things that I've learned is to be truthful with my clients. Before, yes, I was honest, but not directly to the point. Now I just tell people that, hey, if you don't want to hear what I got to say, and if you want to hear just what you want to hear, I'm not the person for you, because I'll tell you what you don't want to hear. You are not partnering with me to hear what you already know. You want to hear something that will help you take the blinders off. So we sat down, we had a great conversation. It was an honest conversation with empathy and compassion. And yet it was important that I delivered the truth, so that I learned it, right? As I work with thousands of clients, after every client, I'm learning something, and I'm taking that knowledge and putting it back into practice. And as I keep on doing it, what happens is it becomes part of who I am. I have absorbed it, and that becomes wisdom. So that's how there is a 3 stages that how I see that makes us thrive in times of crisis. And that's why thriving is a choice. It's always about continuous learning. And folks, if you think that you're done learning, hats off to you. Personally, in my experience, what I've found is that when you're open to learning, that's where you will experience discomfort. Definitely, because as you learn, you'll find, because I know I've got a lot of flaws in me, and I strive continuously to improve on it. And it's not fun when somebody points out, because I personally have coaches, and they'll point out my mistakes. They'll point out that, this is the area that you can really, really improve. Now, does that sit well? Not so much, because that's how we are wired. And yet, having that perspective for being open to it, sitting with it, listening to it, being with it, that's what helps me to grow continuously. And also know that I'm a human being. I will fail. And folks, one thing that I want to share with you is that failure is guaranteed. All of us fail, or most of us fail. Maybe some of us don't fail. Most of us fail in our lives. And if you walk through your life knowing that failure is guaranteed, and that failure is going to be that fertile ground of learning, failure is going to be that stepping stone to success, because you learn what not to do. I have learned what not to do in multiple areas. So I just want to share some of the experiences. So initially, probably, I'm not sure exactly when, probably 5 or 6 years back, when I started out my own podcast. So what had happened was somebody had invited me to their podcast, and the radio show network host also had been there. And after we finished the interview, he said, Divya, would you like to try being a host? And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. So I started out. I was very apprehensive. And when I started out, I would have notes and notes, like pages of notes, ready to go. Okay, what questions am I going to be asking my guests? What is it going to happen? What if they answer this way? How am I going to ask? Because I was scared. And I'd go through it. The best part about it was not on camera. I'm on camera right now. And I don't like being on camera. I'll be honest. And the reason I enjoy being with you is because I know that you guys are always here. You guys are talking to me. So that makes the process and transition beautiful, because I know somebody's there. I'm not just talking out in the blank. So going back to the story. So for the first 2 to 3 episodes, I would be such a mess after I was done podcasting. And I was like thinking, I don't think so. Podcasting is for me. Here I am. I'm coming from a corporate background. Yes, I've spoken at multiple conferences and I've spoken at large conferences, but that was different. It was like speaking on science, right? Taking the science and taking the data and then presenting it. Very cut and dried. And here it was like you had to think on your feet. So I was talking to one of my coaches, and great question. Are you doing this television show to overcome a fear? Folks, here's what I'll tell you. Fear stays with us. Fear doesn't go away. It's about how we learn to deal with it. So I'll go back to the story and you'll know why am I doing this TV show. So what happened was, great question, by the way. So what happened was I was talking with my coach and I said, I don't think so, coach, I can continue doing podcasting. I think so, I'm going to give up. And then my coach challenged me. Sounds like you're running away from it. And I just paused there. And of course I got defensive. No, I'm not running away. This is just not my cup of tea. It's not like everybody has to like everything. And there was silence, pin drop silence. It was very uncomfortable during that moment. And I realized that I was running away. We did not have any other conversation. I walked away and I thought about it. And then I realized, basically, I was experiencing that discomfort. I was experiencing that anxiety. I was experiencing, oh my goodness, what happens if something will go wrong? What are people going to say? What's going to happen? Oh my, somebody's going to go and criticize me. Somebody's going to go put something about me on social media and write something bad, and that's going to be there forever on the web. What's going to happen? And when I experienced that, I realized I was running away. And that's why having a coach by your side is so important. And then I reached out to the network host. I connected with a few of the people and I said, okay, can you share with me your experiencing of podcasting? And I found that most of the people had similar stories to tell how they had overcome their fear. And from there, I just started to relax. And what I was talking about, the pause, I love to practice what I teach. And I started putting a pause. And then I said, who cares? How am I performing? The key is I want to make sure that my guest comes out looking peachy. I turned my focus from myself to the guest. And guess what happened? It's not that fear went away. It's I learned to deal with my fear. I learned to deal with my discomfort. And sometimes that discomfort will stay. Sometimes it goes away. Sometimes it's there somewhere and it will hop back on. And why am I doing this TV show, folks, is because, especially in today's times, we have become so disconnected. I want to connect at a deeper level with you and I want to serve you. I want to bring so much value to you that your life is a whole lot better. And my desire for you, that you become an influencer in your right. And we talk about that, right? We talk about how the profits from this book are going to entrepreneurs impacted by COVID-19. We've talked about it. And that's what it is about. Connecting with the deeper level and hearing stories. And I do get emails from you. So I really, really am thankful. I'm so blessed to have you as my audience. You reach out to me, you share your stories. And that's why I'm moved doing the TV show. That's why I want to continue bringing in guests with you. Now, going back to this story, one time while I was doing podcasting, one of the guests didn't show up. And I freaked out, literally freaked out. And I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? I had glasses of drinking, like 5 glasses of water. And then I just took a pause, took that deep breath, and I asked myself, what would I tell my client if they were in this situation? Go back to your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? I was doing radio shows back then to add value to my audience. And that was it. When you shift the focus from me to we, flip the M in me, folks. When that M becomes we, it's amazing how it's almost like a breath of horizon opens up. Like what you're seeing, the little one, you're not able to, when you're so constricted, me, you're not able to see. And when you're in we, you're able to see it. I'm going to share another story with you about that. Question, do you think this is a good time to be an entrepreneur? Yes, this is the perfect time, folks. Because what's happening is things are changing, things are moving online, and everything is in transition. People don't know what's coming, what's not coming. And now let's say, even if you're working or if you have one part-time job, and if you add that entrepreneurship's path is not that simple and easy. I'm going to be very honest with you. And yet the thrill of it and the tangible outcomes of it, the tangible failures, the tangible successes, they are something to bear with. Because think about it. Entrepreneurs will fight. Entrepreneurs don't give up. If entrepreneurs were not there, we would not be able to change the world. So yes, now is the time for you to be an influencer. Now is the time for you to be an entrepreneur. Not just because you feel like it, but because you want to be. You want to make a difference. You have that passion to make an impact. Always remember that. Find out your why. It's really critical to know your why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you want to do what you're doing? And if that why is strong, it will push you through the hard knocks of life. It will push you through the what of tough times. And how can people take the first step to be self-employed? And what is the first step? So the first step, folks, is finding out what is your why. Why is it that you want to become an entrepreneur? As long as you're not running away from something. Because when you're running away from something, you'll find that things will not work out as well as you've expected. Then you'll run from this thing to something else. So look it in the face. And the first step is figure out why is it that you want to be self-employed. And once you have done that, then look for your passions. What are your passions? And I will recommend both the books, Expert to Influencer and The Entrepreneur's Garden. Both of these books will give you the foundation of getting started. So first we have talked about the why, figuring out what is the why. So for example, I'm going to share a story about my client. She's actually a nurse. She's an RN, and she does sometimes 12-hour shifts, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. And what has she done is that while she's working, she's a frontline hero, or Shiro, and she is helping younger nurses. She's helping her colleagues so that they can step into leadership. So she is very much into leadership, and now she's transitioning into entrepreneurship. And why she's doing that? Because she's passionate about leadership. She's passionate to see people step into their power. She's passionate about people finding their stage, stepping onto it and owning it. That's why she's doing it. And you'll be surprised, folks, so many times she works 12-hour shifts for 5 to 6 days in a row. And still she will reach out to me, and we are working together to establishing her online business and figuring out what needs to happen, what doesn't need to happen. She'll respond, and she will go ahead and do things that are necessary to do it. So think about it. Why is she able to do that? Because she knows her why. So once you know what your passion is, then figure out what is it that you want to do. So I'm going to go back again. So go back to my client's story that she wanted leadership, right? She wants to help people step into leadership and thrive in times of crisis. So we looked at her clients. We looked at where did she bring the most experience from. She has tremendous experience from healthcare industry. And now in healthcare industries, it can be doctors, it can be nurses, it can be medical technicians, it can be EMTs, it can be anybody who's in the hospital. So now, once she knows why she wants to do, the next step is to know what do you want to do. And then the third step is finding out who is your ideal client. And the best way to find out, folks, captured in both the books, The Entrepreneur's Garden and Expert to Influencer. Both of them walk you through. And if you were to think about it, you can be a movement maverick. So let's say you have a message to share. What are you waiting for? Make it a movement. Go become a movement maverick. And when you are going out there and helping, you may say, oh, I'm just getting into entrepreneurship. I'm not cut out for it. So plan it out where you're just doing it part-time. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend thousands of dollars. You can start out small, see the impact, and you can build it slowly and strategically. The key is, folks, to have that strategy right in place. It's about doing the right thing in the right order at the right time. And you may say, oh, when is the right time? So here's what I'll share, folks. The right time is now, if your heart is saying, because tomorrow never comes. And that's true. Tomorrow will become today. Start out small. It's about looking at risk versus reward. If you don't do anything, you'll still be there after a year. And if you take action, you'll have moved forward. So one of the things that I love, and I want to share this very quickly, we are getting very close to the end of our show, is I want to share story of an eaglet. Okay, so what happened was there was a farm filled with chickens and a lot of chicken mamas and rooster, hen and rooster, taking care of little chickens. And very close to the farm, there was a tall tree with a beautiful nest, a pair of eagles that had a couple of eggs. And somehow one egg just floated down. And by the grace of God, it landed amongst the other eggs where the chickens were. And now what happens is the hen and the rooster take really good care of all the eggs. Mama eagle and daddy eagle don't know where the egg went, and they are sad, but they can't do anything. They don't know. And here, what happens is that all the eggs crack open, and they're like little chicklets and little baby eaglet. And all the baby eaglet knows the chicken, knows mama hen, and what it is used to is just pecking down on the ground, not looking up, just pecking on the ground to get its grains and feed itself. But it felt that in its soul, that it was getting so suffocated. It felt imprisoned. The baby eaglet knew that something was wrong, but just did not know what was wrong. And then the farmer tried, because when he saw that, oh, this is baby eaglet needs to fly, the farmer took the baby eaglet and put the baby eaglet on a little branch. It fell down, thump, put it on a larger tree, thump, and farmer gave up. And farmer's grandma was watching all this. So grandma came and took the baby eaglet and turned the baby eaglet upside down. And baby eaglet is now looking at the sky. It is so wide open and shining, and it's so beautiful. The clouds are floating, and baby eaglet just knew, started flapping its wings, and it soared into the sky, folks. So you ask me the question, is the time right now? If you feel that passion, recognize your potential and give it a shot. It's not about going bankrupt or anything like that, but giving it an effort, giving it your all, and then seeing it. Because that's your decision. And I believe in you. And I know that you'll rock it. Make an informed decision and you'll do great. And of course, I'm here to serve and support you. Reach out, ask more questions. Happy to help you folks. And until next time, be well and take care. And thank you, Rebel, for making the show possible. And thank you, my friends, for joining in and asking such great questions. Take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.